Okay, we're going.
Part 2. Let me just say the next verse here, verse 11 of Isaiah 13. This is Yahweh speaking, telling you why this whole event is being staged. I will visit evil upon the earth and upon the wicked their iniquity. Remember, we said that constantly Yahweh says this is the way it works. Mishpat, memshin petet. A man's way is returned upon his own head. Righteousness for righteousness, evil for evil. Whatever you do is coming back on your own head. So when he says, I will visit upon the earth and upon the wicked their iniquity, the wicked get their ways brought back. So Yahweh doesn't stop the wicked from doing wickedness. He returns upon the wicked their wickedness. So when we said earlier in the previous hour, if we don't listen to Yahweh's voice, he can't hear our voice. It's a mirror. That's Gimel Mem. It's a heaping up. That's what Gimel Gam, that's what Gam means. What we do affects what he does. What we do affects what's going to happen. What ends up reading as world history can be changed by what we do. It's not predestined. It's not locked in as fate. I will end the pride of the wanton and bring low the haughtiness of the mighty. Verse 12, I will make man more valuable than rare gold, and people more than the precious gold of Ophir. How's he going to do that? Is he going to say so many humans are going to be killed that they're rare? Well, it's on the Atlanta, Georgia Guidestones, the top statement of the intention of the NWO is to eliminate 7 out of 8 humans, to reduce the world population from now approximately 8 billion to 1/2 of 1 billion. That's actually killing 7 out of 8, or eliminating, let's say, 7.5 out of every 8 people. And it was Mr. Gates of Hell himself holding that little vial with the solution to the problem as he projected out his offering to the industry. There's a famous photograph of him holding that little vial of vaccine and going, But the scripture tells us the gates of hell will not prevail. So we affectionately refer to him as the gates of hell. Billy Boy. Verse 13, therefore I will make the heavens tremble and the earth will rumble from its place at the fury of Yahweh's avot on the day of his burning wrath. So you go back to Immanuel Velikovsky, and he was saying what had to happen to the earth that's fixed solid, that it should rumble, the whole earth rumble. And so Velikovsky was looking at verses in the Psalms like, "O mountains, skip like rams and danced like lambs." And it's like, the mountains don't dance. And if you imagine taking a carpeting that you're going to shake out, or a big tarp, and you pick it up and you, whoo, and there's this ripple that goes through it. He was saying, what would make the surface of the earth do that? Imagine being able to grab a hold of a tectonic plate and woof, and send this ripple through the. That's what he was saying. David was describing. It wasn't just poetry. It was a real event. And that's what this is talking about. It's verse 17 where Yahweh says, behold, I shall arise media against them, against Babylon. But then if you look at that, and I'm just not going to elaborate at this point, but if you go back, it says, Hineni, here I am, is what that is, Mem Ayin Yod Resh, which is to wake up, arouse. Ayin Resh Kaf is the word for Eric, as in Erictology. Ayin Yod Resh is the word for city. This is Mem Ayin Yod Resh. If you look at Ayin Resh or Ayin Resh Hey, it means be alert and vigilant. It's like, whoa, wake up and pay attention. The whole idea of Erictology, I'm just saying that here you look at Mem Ayin Yod Resh, and it's like, that's not Erictology. It's wake up, pay attention, be vigilant, look out, there's an enemy. It's all of us. The yod is one of those wild cards. The mem is a prefix. It's the essence of ayin resh. Ayin lamed yod hey mem is ayin lamed is to raise up above, or success or prosperity. It's a yoke. It's in connection with aleph tav medi mem dalet yod. Well, it doesn't say Media Persia. It says mem dalet yod. It's translated Media Persia. So here's the benefit of the dictionary. If I look at mem dalet yod, was it page 316, 317? No, 318. Mem dalet hey, mem measurement, attribute, character, nature, ruler, principle. Mem dalet hey. Remember, yod is a suffix, mem is a prefix. Well, that's man's way measured back to him. That's also the word fakad, pekuf dalet. You will be visited with your own iniquity. Mem dalet dalet is index. Mem dalet hey, tribute, tax, toll. Mem dalet dalet, to measure. Mem dalet yod, what is sufficient? It says, because dalet yod means sufficiency. So in that movie, Ushfazim, the lady says to her husband, die, die. You know, she's speaking Hebrew, and it's translated, enough, enough, stop. Dalet yod, it's sufficient, just stop, die. So in English, when you die, okay, that's it. You've lived out your days. You're no longer walking the face of the earth as a living man. You die. Dalet yod is sufficiency. But then if you look at dalet yod, I'm just trying to show you the way to use this dictionary. Page 120, dalet yod, sufficiency, enough. Who, that, which, about. Dalet yod aleph. Through, thoroughly, utterly. So you could say, you look at mem dalet yod and say, is he talking about the land we call Media Persia? Or is he talking about when the cup of iniquity is full, he's going to take the cup out of Babel's hand and give it to them for themselves to drink. The measure that they have been causing other people to drink, he's going to make them drink it. Well, he's said he's going to do that numerous times. He said about the Canaanites, their iniquity is full. So their time is up. It's over. It's up. It's full. Their measure is to capacity. And he told his people of the Israelites, collective of 12 tribes, he says, go on in, it's yours. And his people were so afraid, they said, oh no, the giants are big, they've got grand castles and forts and weapons of war, and we listen to their voice, and they've got bad intentions, and we're too afraid. They were more afraid of the voice of the giants inhabiting the land of Canaan than they believed the voice of Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel. And so he said, because that's your disposition, then as you have measured to me, so I'm going to measure to you. You will all die in the wilderness at my hand, because you were afraid that I was going to give you to your enemies to die at their hand. It was the Israelites' own attitude that brought 40 years of wandering in the wilderness upon them. I've heard people say prophetically, oh, he's the second Exodus, he's going to take us into the wilderness, and we're going to have to be putting in 40 years. And it's like, why? Are we going to have the same stupid attitude that our ancestors did? Or are we going to take him at his word and believe him and go forward with the gusto because we're his people? Well, let's look at verse 1, word for word, of Isaiah 13. It says, Mem Shin Aleph, Babel, Bet Lamed, Asher, Aleph Shin Resh, Het Zion Hey, Chazah, Yod Shin Ayin. Hey, there's the word to save. Yod Shin Ayin, Yod Hey Vav, Yeshayahu. That's the word Isaiah, just so you know. Ben Amotz, Bet Nun, hyphen Aleph Mem Vav Zadi. That's what I said was kind of the throwaway sentence. where he says, it's translated, a prophesy concerning Babylonia, which Isaiah son of Amoz envisioned. It's like, well, let's look at this. Mem Shin Aleph is a word used in Jeremiah 23, where people would say, anybody got a word from the Lord? Does anybody have an oracle? Does anybody have some divine insight that you can share this week? But it was translated Masa Yahweh, and that's this word, Mem Shin Aleph, and it's translated burden or oracle, or is something lifted up and carried, because Shin Aleph means to lift up and carry. The word NASA, Nun Shin Aleph, very similar to National Aeronautic Space Agency, NASA, who makes space shuttles and picks things up and flies them through the into space. Let's pretend that's the same word, pronounced the same way. So NASA is the noon, the action of lifting up and carrying, but masa is the object carried, or the oracle, or the burden. And in Jeremiah 23, Yahweh has, if you ever see him ticked off, read that chapter. He said, if anybody ever says this phrase again, Masa Yahweh, that's it. I've had it. I'm going to tear apart that man and his family. He'll have no part in anything of mine. And if there's anybody that has any clue as to what's going on, let them say, what did Yahweh pronounce? What did Yahweh Ayanun He? Well, Ayanun He is the exact same word used in Isaiah 58 concerning the Day of Atonement. It's translated fast. How has Yahweh fasted? It's to make it your obsession, your burden. It's also the word for answer, reply, and to sing and to humble yourself. It's like, we have all humbled ourselves Sunday mornings for 2 hours at least with learning this language. This is our voluntary Ayanun He. And it says in Jeremiah 23 that we should say, what is Yahuwah's Ayanun He? We better never ever mention this Mem Shin Aleph of Yod He Vav He ever again. Okay, so Mem Shin Aleph is the thing, the Mem is the object or the thing which is carried. I'm trying to make that clear because this plays into a really incredible translation. The next word is Babel. It doesn't say Babylonia, and it doesn't say Babylon. But in Hebrew, the word Babel is translated into English as Babylon or Babylonia. It's just Babel, like Tower of Babel. Bet Lamed. Bet is a gateway or entrance. Bet Lamed is the word for confusion or foolish or nonsense. And remember, Abigail's husband named Nabal, Nun Bet Lamed. Well, Nun is like this lightning bolt, this arrow, the turning on a light switch. The guy engaged in Bet Lamed. And Bet Lamed is where we get the word, I feel kind of blah, bah. Nothing happening, or just kind of confused and mixed up and no clear. So Babel is literally the gateway to confusion. So the city that was built around the Tower of Babel, well, there was no confusion, was there? Well, the languages were confused. So after the fact, it was called Babel, but was it called Babel while they were making it? Not necessarily. See, historically, you'll see names given to people written in the scripture talking about the reference of they were the ones engaged in that activity, and there's no way to really know whether that was really their name or not. And maybe it doesn't matter. What was the name their mother called them? Is the name a prophecy, or is the name a sticker, a handle placed on that individual as historical reference in retrospect? There's no way to know. It could be either. But if we say there's something attached, there's something picked up and carried by this confusion, some kind of oracle. This Mem Shin Aleph is some kind of prophetic utterance. There's a confused, foolish prophetic utterance. Okay? If you look in the dictionary under a related word, mem, sheen, vav, aleph, hey, and if you look at mem, sheen, aleph, it says you can also look at mem, sheen, vav, aleph. Again, that's just the engineering of the language. It says it means a beacon, desolation, and a fire signal. It's also an equation. So this is the whole essence of this way of doing the study. What's a fire signal? A siren goes off. Oh, what? Why is the siren going off? Is it somebody's car alarm? No, it's a fire signal. Oh, there's something on fire. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. It's something that means something. So mem shin aleph is something being lifted and carried. A fire signal carries the message that a fire is happening. Or if it's in a car alarm, it carries the message somebody's breaking into your truck. If there's a fire that sends up smoke, well, that's just the sign that there's a fire. But if it's a smoke signal, like I remember hearing back when we were kids that the American Indians back out in the plains, they used to use smoke signals. You know, they'd light a fire, throw in some, green leaves so it really put out a lot of smoke, and they'd throw a blanket over it and lift it off and throw it over it and let there be puffs. And it was almost like Morse code of puffs of smoke. Pretty ingenious. But those puffs of smoke were carrying a message. That's what mem shin aleph means. A message is being carried like a smoke signal, like a beacon. A message of desolation is being carried. Is it by the confusion of Babel, which is other languages than Hebrew? Asher, the next word, aleph shin resh, means who, that, which, but it also means straight, valid, confirmed, and authenticated, to walk straight. Well, that's the opposite of a signal, a message of confusion. So it's almost like the word asher is the opposite. And then the word het zayin hey means behold, vision, predict, aspect on display. It's chest or breast. It's this pectoral. So like the Romans had this breastplate, showing these muscles, regardless of what they really were as humans. They showed this in fortitude. It's like, whoa, gosh, these warriors with these abs, Anyway, foreseen, revelation, drama, phenomenon. Chazah, asher chazah, is a true vision of display, not the fake utterance of confusion as an oracle. So it looks like the first two words are juxtaposed on opposite sides of some kind of scales of balance with asher chazah. But then the word Yeshayahu, he will save. Yod shin ayin, Yod prefix he will, shin ayin is to save. But then Yod hey vav, well, that's Yahu as in Yahweh. It's more than that. The first suffix from shin ayin makes it possessive, my. He will save me. Hey is the feminine suffix. He will save her, or the one who is doing the savings will save her, and the vav is the masculine suffix, means it's his. So you could read this as he will save her. The hero will save his woman. This is about Yahweh saving his people. If we listen to the voice of Yahweh, what he said is he will save us. But we have to listen to Yahweh, and the proof that we're listening is that we're going to sit down in Shabbat and quit working and walk in keeping his moedim and walk in the ways of righteousness and justice and truth. Ben is the son, but mem betnun, ma ben, which is similar to the word that ma being that we were talking about before, structural, reconstruct, firmly built, expertly. It means this is the way the universe is established. And then the last word, amotz, well, Rachazat ve'emetz, be strong and good courage, what Yahweh said to Joshua. Emetz, aleph mem zadi, strong and courageous, but aleph mem vav zadi. Well, motz, like the word matzah, or mitzvot, another way to pronounce the exact same spelling, mem zadi vav tav, means to find out how to do something. Mem zadi means to press or squeeze. So mem vav zadi aleph, different spelling. Aleph is the prefix, I will. Aleph mem is a mother, the source. Mem vav zadi aleph means source, spring, utterance. exported privy, a toilet, to bring forth. You go to the toilet to bring forth that which is captured inside. You go to the spring because from deep in the earth, it's where it gushes out water. You go to the cow to squeeze the udder to get milk. It's all the same picture. You go to the utterance, the utterance of Yahuwah, you squeeze it to get the true prediction of Yahweh saving his people. That's exactly what we're doing by looking at these words. What we're doing is exactly what this first sentence says. As a smoke signal, a beacon containing a message, an oracle, Mem Shin Aleph can also mean a debt is due, a debt carried by a creditor, like Yahweh allowing a certain amount of stuff, and then he says, okay, it's time to pay the piper, it's time to pay the debt, it's the time that I call the loan. The creditor is claiming. And what's the debt? Desolation, deceit, confusion, bewildering nonsense, babble. When he's had enough of babble, when the time, because his people, what time is it? Does anybody know what time it is? The band Chicago did a song, two different songs. One was 25 or 6 to 4. It's like whatever time it is, it's 25 or 6 to 4. Another song was Saturday in the Park. Does anybody know what time it is? Does anybody even really care? It's like, what time is this? The time to restore Yahweh's name. The time to recall what Yahweh said. The time for us to listen to his voice and engage it in the action like those 13 names said, so that he can step in the way he's been wanting and yearning and planning and mustering his forces from some other side of the galaxy to swoop in his Delta SWAT team and take away the sinners off the face of the planet. Straight, valid, authentic. That same word is lightning flash. Hayes, Het, Zion, lightning flash. You want an oracle? Yahweh saves his own. That's the message. And that is absolutely to be found by squeezing his utterance. I will find out. See the word Aleph before Mem Vav Zadi. Mem Zadi is to find out how to do something. I will find out is the attitude, Aleph, strong, bold, perform with great difficulty. That's why we started off saying, hey, Mark, what did you come up with these names, the meanings of these 13 names? Oh, this is what I saw. And exactly what he was describing is exactly what this verse is meaning. That's why we started off, just so you know, with that first thing. I will find out, boldly venturing into the unknown, courageously performing, persevering against difficulty. That first verse is describing exactly this entire study effort, this Erichtology thing. Verse 2, Al-Har Na Shapha, upon the mountain of Shapha, Nun Shapha, Shin Alephav, that's the word lift up and carry, Shin Alephav, Nun Samik. Nun Samik is like the Erichtology group logo, the red letter Nun, the purple letter Samik, surrounding by the letters, the orange burst. It's the word that means lift up. It's also the word that means banner, or that which is picked up. It also means to a miraculous escape. Yeshua said, if the Son of Man be lifted up, the way Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. Well, it was actually a nachash, or it means the word coppery or bright and shiny. It wasn't a snake on a pole, but it was a shiny, coppery, sparkly thing on some kind of trellis apparatus. Well, that's like Yeshua being lifted up. It's a nun shape, almost like this serpentine shape. The word nakash and enchantment and coppery is all the same word, nun het shin. So in that symbol of the nun on the samik, there's numerous different elements that you could write out probably a dozen different sentences of what that means. Lift up this nun samik, harimo. Rorim is where you get the word Roman and Romulan. And reem ox, this giant ox that's extinct now. It means high, mighty, grand, exalted, majestic, kol. So is that the adjective describing the voice? The great voice, the majestic voice, the exalted voice? Well, that's got to be the voice of Aleph Tav. You see, it doesn't say Aleph Tav here, but we know, because we've been studying this language, that the Kol Harim, the voice of the high, mighty, grand, exalted, majestic, is the meaning of the Aleph Tav, the voice of these 22 letters. So I'm projecting that in as the solution, just leaving this as a riddle. Lehem, to them, Hey Nun Yod Pei Vav, Hanifo, Nif, Nun Yod Pei. You look that up and it's not in the dictionary. Nun Vav Pei, treetop, sway to and fro, panoramic view. A related word, etymologically speaking, another language, Nafa means high, lofty, or exceeding. The related word Nun Pei with the suffix Tav means flowing honey. Flowing honey from a hidden place up in the rocks, up in the tree, wherever the beehive is. From the treasury, out comes this flowing honey flowing down. There's no Pei-Tav. There's another word in a couple words from now, Pei-Tav Chet Yod. So by taking the Nun Pei and the Pei-Tav, it's a matter of building the language, knowing the language. That's how you have to translate. Yod, well, that's Yod Dalet. Well, that's hand, that's arm, that's strongly. But Yod is a prefix of Dalet. What's Dalet? Dalet is a choice, Dalet is a door, but Hevav Dalet, Hod, means joyously. We had talked about that word with the 13 names. And the word Hodu, give praise, thanks, confession of sin, reverb, resounding, echoing, joyously giving him thanks. This is just the word Yod Dalet, arm, hand, strong arm. With all your strength, give him thanks. Vayavo, Yod Bet Aleph, it will arrive. Enter. It will arrive when, from a panoramic view, we give strong rejoicing. Patachi, Pei-Tav Het Yod. Remember, Mem Pei-Tav Het is the word key. Pei-Tav Het is opening. Pei-Tav He is to be foolishly seduced by some alluring enticement. So the He and the Het, we talked about this before. Het is this protection. He is wide open. He is to reveal and look and expose and shine the light on. Het is this sheltered place. The Het. But Het Yod is the word for life. So this is like Tav is a sign of the covenant, Pei is a mouth or that which opens. So this word Pataki has to do with providing an opening to the covenant of life. Well, remember back in the garden, the tree of life was blockaded and guarded by a couple flaming angels, seraphim. This is kind of like the opposite of that. And then Nun Dalet Yod Bet Yod Mem. Well, Nun Dalet Yod Bet Nadib. Well, that's like Nadab and Abihu, the two sons of Aaron. It means voluntary, generous, philanthropic donations to incite or impel noble deeds. But this is just translated, the houses of the nobles. What? Those aren't nobles. Well, those are people doing noble deeds. They're doing noble deeds because they're giving, donating voluntarily. House? That's not the word house. That's not doorway. It's Pataki. See, there's another way to read this. Let's go back. Upon the steep mountain, well, the word Nun Shin Pei He. Nun Shin Pei means steep, to pant with difficulty. It's a fierce blowing wind. Well, if you go hiking up in the Rocky Mountains, once you get above the timberline, the trees, as you approach the earth, the timberline is where the trees start growing. So it's a different frame of mind. If you're climbing up the mountain, it's where the tree line, where they stop growing. Perspective. The wind blows. There's nothing to break the wind and to stop. It's just cold and little tiny alpine tundra, little plants grow up there. But then the trees get really stunted. They look at like bonsai trees. It's a very interesting place to go in the Rocky Mountains in North America here. But noon might be a prefix, in which case shin pei hey. Hey, that's the word for smooth, slippery lip, language, tongue. Like the lip, where it's smooth. To cure from lunacy, to restore to health, to bring sanity back. Well, that's the exact opposite of Babel. Lift up and carry the noon psalmic, the majestic voice of theirs, to them, lahem, the panoramic view, strong rejoicing, it will arrive, my excluded from everyone else, opening the tree of life. And then the word Nadab. Well, Dalet Bet. This is Dalet Yod Bet. Well, Nun is a prefix, Yod Mem is suffix, Nadavim. But Dalet Bet is the word for bear. Like the big bear lives in the woods eating the honey. Dalet Bet. Dalet Bet. Bet is a related word. It means soft speech, to walk strong yet soft, like a bear. Dalet Bet Aleph is the strength of the bear, and it has to do with affluence and overflow, which is the same thing as these voluntary, generous flowing of honey. Let's go back and read that verse then. It's a steep mountain to ascend. Breathe pantingly, great difficulty, fierce winds assail. Cure the insanity, make sane the lunacy. Above the timberline, bare of foliage, it's smooth and slippery. Lift up noon psalmic, the language of the Resh man. Hey, Resh, na, shafa, sho, nas. Hey, Resh, the noon shafa, restore the language of the Resh man. That's exactly what we're doing. We're doing what this is about. Both foundation and pinnacle, which is Resh. It's the base, but it's also the pinnacle. It's the summit and that upon which all else is built. The grand, exalted, majestic voice. It's describing the Aleph Tav, the voice of instruction, Lameding, Lamed, Hey Mem, teaching them, Kol, Kufav Lamed. Examine closely. The word for noon pei hey, remember this is noon yod pei vav, but noon pei hey, again, take the yods and vavs out, different prefixes, suffixes, means winnowing, purify, to examine closely, sieve, sift, or swing. So if you put flour in a sift and shake it, and it makes it fine. If you put gravel into a screen and shake it, the bigger pieces stay up, the finer things fall out. Shaking, processing, it's the action of doing this translation work. Examine closely, sift, purify. It's like panning gold. Joyously expecting to see it appear. Just keep looking. It's like climbing up the tree to see the panoramic view, and when the wind blows, that's where the tree is swaying. Interestingly enough, in Genesis 1 or Genesis 2, in the Garden of Eden, it says that Yahweh walked with Adam and Eve in the evening. That's not what it says. That we're told that's what it says. But what it says is, in the evening when the breezes blew and the treetops would move, they sensed his presence. He wasn't necessarily physically walking with Adam and Eve, Adam and Hua, as a humanoid figure in the cool of the day. But when the temperature changed and the winds, the warm breezes blew in the evening, and the treetops would move, they sensed his presence with them. See, again, we've been told we got these pictures. That's not necessarily what it's saying at all. Joyously expecting to see it appear, just keep looking. Keep looking. Keep looking at these words. The panoramic view exceeds. When you see it, you'll see it. It's like that magic eye posters they used to make. I can't say anything. It looks like wallpaper. Keep looking. And all of a sudden, when you see it, it's like, whoa, more than you could ever expect. It's what you get from doing this study. And when it arrives, renewal renaissance, flowing honey from my treasury, secret, sacred source, strong like bear, affluence, overflow, soft speech. He's not yelling at anybody. He's just saying, here's everything you've been looking for. Right here in these words. That's verse 2. Verse 3, ani zoiti. Zadivav is command. Tavyod is I have. So ani means I am. It's an admiral. It's an emperor, the majestic one. I have commanded lamed mem kuf dalet shin yod. Well, there, hey, kadosh. I have commanded my kadoshi. The ones who are at, remember, mem can be a prefix, meaning at, when, the instrument, the ones who. I have commanded my dedicated ones, my elite special forces, my betrothed. Is he talking about space aliens or is he talking about us? I have given commands to my kadoshi. Are you his kadoshi? The word kadoshi can mean betrothed to, the ones that are actually listening to him, the ones that are in his service, the ones who are dedicated, paying attention to his voice. Rest on the Sabbath day. Keep my moedim. Conduct the Pesach meal that's coming up in just a couple weeks. Gimel mem, also heaped up, but that's also the word for abundance. Kuf resh aleph tav yod, karati. We've talked about this word many times. Kuf resh aleph, taught to read, called and invited. Tav yod, I have called, I have taught to read. Who? My kadoshi. But this is resh aleph tav right in the middle. Resh aleph hey means to make perceptible on exhibition, and kuf resh as a word means cool, like Coors, like the beer, cooler. It's refreshing and it's of greater value. Look at the word with a different prefix, yod kuf resh, precious, dear, costly, and rare. And then the word gabor-i, gabar, gimel bet resh, this is gimel bet vav resh, the central character of a drama. Valiant, courageous, knight, men of valor, champion, mighty, strong, warrior, Gabor. Gabor la Yahweh, heroic unto Yahweh, victorious by Yahweh, mighty man of Yahuwah, Gabor la Yahweh. We each ought to be one. Lamed Aleph Pei Yod, of my wrath. Aleph Pei, wrath, but Aleph Pei is also nose and character. It's the nose which establishes the character of the faith. A friend of mine from Guatemala used to say, "No es del nariz del santo." It's not the nose of the saint. You're sitting there working on drywall, making it perfect, and down in the corner somewhere, and it's like, no one's going to see it. It doesn't matter. It's not the nose of the saint. Make it good enough. There's times to put your best work and times to make your work go fast, and it's good enough depending on where it is. The nose of the saint, man, if you're making an image of a saint and you're working for the Catholic Church and you got to make that carving or the painting and you got to make that idol or image or that saint, that picture of the saint, man, it's got to be perfect because that established, you can't have, a bump on his nose in a weird place. The nose establishes the character, flaring nostrils or smooth countenance. So the word afi is Yahweh's actual character. Ayin Lamed Yod Zion Yod, Alizi. Alisa is a girl's name, like Elisa Bridges, there in Missouri, Chris Bridges' wife, Alizi. It means rejoicing and exulting. Ayin Lamed Hey, yoked with, is a cause, pretext, or occasion. Lose, Lamed Vav Zion, because Lamed Yod Zion isn't in the dictionary. It means where we get the word loser, lose, you get the word for light, but it means devious, crooked, turn aside, or slander. So you could say the character of turning aside from the character of rejoicing and exulting. Well, what is it we've been talking about? Yahweh says when Ephraim comes back to listen and walk in the ways of righteousness, Yahweh's character changes. He rejoices, exults over his people, and he will be their Elohim and take away our enemies. It's on account of us being losers, devious and crooked, not walking in the ways of the covenant, which has brought all this curse upon the earth, which is why so many species of animals have become extinct, which is why the weather is going convoluted, which is why he has empowered the overlords, are liars, are deceivers, are ruiners of his creation, because Israel refuses to listen to his voice and sit down on Shabbat and walk in the ways of righteousness. The last word here of verse 3, Gimel Aleph Vav Tav Yod. Hey, Aleph Vav Tav, that's a letter of the alphabet. Tav Yod, that means I have or mine. So that means the word Gimel Aleph. Well, what's Gimel Aleph? Well, if you look at Gimel Aleph, you don't see a whole lot. It means rise up, high, proud. But you put a hey prefix in front of it. Hey Gimel Aleph Yod, navigator, phonetic. Excellence, haughty, rising, swelling, arrogance. So you realize the way the word is constructed, if you just say they're exuberant over my grandeur, my majesty, they're proud of me, they rejoice, alizi, because of my grandeur. What's his grandeur? It's found by navigating the phonics of the letters of his alphabet, each one which is part of his sworn oath of covenant with his people. So I can read this verse. I have commanded my elite, dedicated, betrothed. Well, that's Israel. Unlike any other people on the face of the earth, he says, I have made myself known to you. I have called you to have a personal relationship to me, woven together. That's the word sukkah, sukkat, woven hand to or mouth to ear, listening and speaking to each other, interwoven. Abundance. I have commanded abundance, and I have summoned, invited to learn to read. I have made perceptible on exhibition my most precious, dearest honor. My warriors, my men of valor, exuberant over the grandeur of my character, rejoicing that my nose is navigated by the letters of my alphabet. So I can read this chapter that Yahweh has his angels, his zavot, his military forces by the billions, by however many, whatever he made, and he'll bring them in to conduct his campaign of Lachma, his war campaign. And it's all dependent on whether we listen to his voice and do what he says. Because he's not rejoicing over the slaughter and rejoicing over the bad guys. He's rejoicing over us listening to his voice and walking in his ways. The rest of the verses 4 through 9 I have written on here, but we're starting to run out of time. So it basically says there's a voice of great confusion in the mountains, like that of the great people, a voice of uproar, kingdoms of the Goyim. Yahweh's a vote commanding his army of war. Verse 5, they arrive from a land, Memresh Het Kuf. Well, you look up that word in the dictionary, and it means distance, dimension, remote, far away, improbable, and unlikely. Mekuchzat, Mem Kufzadi Hay, set apart an elite detail of soldiers, set aside place for cutting and drying fruit. Could even be a carpentry shop, a place where you bring in the wood and cut it and turn it into something. There's a place of training, of staging, of waiting, that he's got an elite detail of soldiers. That's Mem Kufzadi Hay. And it says it's on the far side of the heavens, Hashemayim. Yahweh and his collie. The word collie, like collie dog. It means containment, imprisoned, destruction, completely lost. Garment, utensil, vessel. It's his vessel of absolute destruction. Zion, ayin, mem, vav. Zion, ayin, mem, noon is the word for black snake. There was a book, Autumn of the Black Snake. It's like, well, it was about the American Revolution in the era of the 1700s. Why did they call it black snake? Because it means indignant, angry, wrath, and vexed. It's interesting. Whoever the author of that book must have known Hebrew, because that's what black snake means. Zion, ayin, mem. La Chabal, Het Bet Lamed. Het Bet Lamed Noon is a destroyer ship, armed with all those cannons and missiles, and writhe, travail, to bind, or measured portion, roped off for destruction, measured injury, rigging of ropes, sabotage. The entire land is going to be destroyed. The entire land is roped off for destruction. The entire land has brought upon itself its measured due. Yahweh does not indiscriminately, arbitrarily do anything. It's always measure for measure. And he said, when the wicked man stops doing wickedness and turns to do righteousness, none of his wickedness will be remembered. He didn't even say if he believes in Jesus. He just said, stop doing your wickedness and start doing righteousness, and your wickedness will not be recalled to mind. But he also said, if the righteous man stops doing righteousness and starts doing wickedly, none of his righteousness will be remembered. Your way is returned upon your own head. What we've been taught as religious doctrine is not necessarily the way the universe works, but we have to realize the measured portion is measured by us, by our actions, whether we are listening or not listening, whether we're walking in his ways or not walking in his ways, whether we're righteous or wicked is up to us. It's not predestined. Wailing, verse 6, wailing because approaching, drawing near the day of Yahweh, Kadash Mashadi, Yavo, it will arrive. Shin Dalet, like a plowed field, like destruction from El Shaddai, an evil spirit from the Almighty. What's coming is going to be this horrible thing. So for the bad guys to think that they're going to do this and that, they can pound their chest and make all the claims they want. Yahweh's got this. Verse 7, Alkan, surely all call Yadim, all hands, Zadi Resh Pei Yod Nun Hey. Well, Resh Pei is the word to heal, but Tav Resh Pei Yod Nun Hey, a secret part, essential element, the part that matters. If you have a contract and said it was never signed, the contract's void. They use fake words. It's not a real contract. They use an all capital letter name instead of lower letter name. That's not me. I have nothing to do with this contract. The people that have been lying about legalities, the secret part that matters, or the weak spot, there's all these different words that are buried in there. All hearts, human, Yod Mem Samik. Well, basically melt, dissolve, trouble, despair. In other words, everything they have built on lies will melt. All their strength, their fortress. Remember, we were reading a week or two ago about we have made a covenant with death. We have made lies our refuge. And that's the reason why our politicians keep doing stupid things, lying and getting away with it. And we think, how can anybody believe this stuff? They're lying right there on camera. Everybody knows they're lying. Why do they keep lying? They have to, because they made a covenant with iniquity, with lies, with death. And part of the deal with dancing with the devil is you got to play the devil's tune, which is he's the author of lies. They must lie because they're in league with lies. So Yahweh says, anybody who makes and crafts falsehood has no place in my kingdom, which is why when we see the truth, we have to turn away from calling Sunday the holy day. It's Yom HaShabbat, the seventh day is the day of Kadosh, rest. When we see that we were told It's not whether you're good or bad. It's whether you ask Jesus into your heart. There's not one verse in the Bible that says you should ask Jesus into your heart. Not one. He did say in the book of Revelation, I stand at the door and knock. Whoever opens and invites me in, I'll come in and sup with him. But what he did say was stop your wickedness. Stop plugging your ears and going, la, 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 I can't hear a word thou it says. You should listen to his voice with all your heart and all your soul and do what he said and walk in his ways. That's what he said. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 30. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 6. That's throughout the entire scripture. What he said was righteousness is defined by doing what he said, and wickedness is defined by not doing what he said. And for an entire 2,000-year assembly of 50,000 different permutations of church to say there is no law, that's a damn lie. And it's not his ways, not his heart, not his mind, not his voice. And so when you recognize the difference, the fabricated lies, not his voice, compared to the true Torah of his instructions, you must make the distinction to return to his ways. And if everybody else says, we're not going to do that, we're going to carry on with the lies that we were given, then you've made the determination for yourself. He promises to make the distinction clear. All right. Verse 8, fright, terror, dismay, confusion. There you go. There's the oracle of Babylon. Zadi, Yod, Resh, Zir, Im, turn, revolve, hinge, pivot, adore, to draw, to paint, picture, disguised, messenger, envoy, pangs of childbirth, juice pressed out, pains. Zirim, what's in this word? Pain of realizing that something's got to change. But we've been given this picture, but it's a bad picture. It's a wrong picture. Where's the truth of what Yahweh wants to bring forth? We're in the throes of travail in that word. And the next word, Yod Tav Mem He Vav. Tav Mem is perfect, innocent, with integrity. But the word expressed Tav Mem He is astonished, wonder, amazed, aghast, and stupefied. Paneh La Havim Paneham, their faces all aroused, distorted, and inflamed. So you could say the word for flame is Lamed Hey Bet. Hey Bet is the Aleph, Hey Bet, Hey is the word for love. So at the root of love is the word for lava, or inflamed, or aroused enthusiasm, because Yahweh is giving the truth of his face to his people. The restoration of his af, his character. So some people are going to be in contortion of fear and terror, and other people will say, Hodu Layuaki Tom, because of the perfect integrity of the church, of the truth, the perfect integrity of the truth that he is allowing to be seen. That's what time this is. Did we even know that these days were coming? 1970, when Chicago, the band, played that music. Does anybody know what time it is? Does anybody even care? La-di freaking da. Well, we have 50 years past the time that we were, remember back then they were saying the world was going to come to an end. Okay, one more point. If you go to verse 24 of Isaiah 14, Nun Shin Bet Ayin, swearing Yahweh's avot, La Amer, by declaring Amlo, if not, it's translated surely, Ka Asher Damiti. Ki He Yod Tav Yod, He Ta. Surely like, well, dummy, that's silent. That's to cease or to stop. But see, if you look through the dictionary, you'll see that Dalet Mem He also means to be like, to resemble, to be equal in value, intended, thought, believed, imagined, appeared, or he likened himself to. So you can't just say, well, dummy, that means silent or stop or likeness. Whatever he has likened himself to, yes, so truly it will exist. What has Yahweh likened himself to? It certainly wasn't a nicely carved marble image of a saint or the painting of Jupiter or Zeus. He said, make no image. So what did he liken himself to? But it says, surely just like that thing which I liken myself to, it does exist. And like that which Yod Ayin Zadi Tav Yod, I have Yod Ayin Zadi. Well, that's Ayin Zadi is to give counsel or open eyes or to close your eyes or become lignified or turn to wood. And if you make a wooden carving out of them, that's an idol. But it also means as advised, decided, planned, or they took counsel together. Again, the use of the dictionary is that you'll see that there's half a dozen meanings, and one goes, oh, they took counsel together. The word dabar means, as was stipulated in the conditions that we agreed to together. So again, this goes back to saying, Hey Yod Aleph exist, Tav Kufav Mem, arise, establish, in place. So it's translated, as I have sworn, so shall it be, as I have purposed or planned, so shall it arise. That's the embedded Aleph Tav. It's like, hey, look it. Aleph is as I have planned, as I have purposed, so shall it be, so shall it arrive. But it's saying more than that. It's saying Yahweh has put himself on record by his words to Israel that this is my position or his disposition. It's on record as a fact. It's irrefutable. And so it will be. He's not going back on his words. And if somebody says, well, God doesn't change, but he changed the rules, not with Israel. That's what this is saying. But because it's translated a certain way, you won't see it unless you go back and you find out exactly what these words are saying. When he puts himself on record, and what did he do it with? The Aleph Bet. He compared himself to the meanings of the 22 letters of the alphabet. And then he spoke words swearing a vow that just like what these things mean, so it will arise. So it is. So he will always be, and we can count on that. We trust that with all our heart, all our strength, and all our soul as we courageously, going back to verse 1, ematz, boldly find out what this is, and then build our entire life on the truth and validity of these matters. Now, just for what it's worth, before we're at the end here, as I said, this is a little different take on, hey, how about them flying saucers coming in that have Yahweh's SWAT team that are going to come take care of business? Sure they will. Somebody sent me a message. I looked at it just to put a plug for these guys. They're Christians, so you're going to get a Christian point of view. You want to find out about those guys? A film by End Time Productions, the Faull brothers, F-A-U-L-L, two guys, fourthwatchfilms.com, Higher Entities, one film they made, Hollow Earth Chronicles, another film they made. Talk about Matthew 24, supernatural worldview of lying signs and wonders. They're talking about you got to know your enemy. You got to be armed and equipped with the whole armor of God according to the book of Ephesians. These are good Christian guys, and you want to know. They've interviewed guys like L.A. Marzulli and all these other people who talk about the Nephilim, the giants, the aliens, the guys coming through the portals that have been opened up, blah, blah, blah. They never mention Yahweh's name. Oh, I'm not sure. One guy happened to mention the name Yahweh a couple times. And it's like, I listened to an hour of their interview and a couple other things. I didn't watch their shows, but it's like, you want to know about that stuff? They've got interviews with all the famous guys over the last 20 years. There's a certain word that my wife would looked up, chet gimel resh, chagar, to gird, held back, hindered, halted. To gird, chet gimel vav resh, chagur, an equipment of a marching soldier. So you want to be gird with the whole armor of Elohim, like the book of Ephesians says. Shield of faith, feet shod with the good news of peace, the breastplate of salvation, the sword of truth. What's the equipment belt? Het Gimel Resh. It means held back, hindered, halted, limped, but it also means leap forth. Guess what? That's exactly what the word Pesach means. Pesach means to be able to leap over, but it also means to be lame so that you can't leap. So if you look at the word Hagar, the equipment that girds a soldier, that he carries, is the synonym with Pesach. It encircles like a belt, an equipment belt, which is the synonym with Aleph Zayin Nun, which is the word translated ear or to hear, which also is balanced like handles, or like we talked about this equipment belt. So it was my wife's study that in looking at some of these words years ago, that to keep the Moedim is the equipment girding, surrounding, and you've got these on this side of the year, 6 months later, these on those side, and it's like an equipment belt. So Yahweh gave us to listen to his voice and walk in his ways. The other interesting thing is the word Hagar, to hold back, hinder, or halt, is a synonym with the word Atzeret, like Shemini Atzeret. It's translated the word patiently. Just be patient. No, just stop when he said to stop. That's what we're supposed to do on Shabbat. That's what we're supposed to do on the Moedim. So it's interesting that if you read the Torah, you will see that the equipment of the full armor of Elohim is to listen to his voice, sit down on Shabbat, and keep the Moedim, walk in righteousness and truth. If you read the book of Ephesians and watch Fourth Watch films, you might say, you got to know your enemy. Know your enemy, he's a liar. Okay, what more do you need to know? Do you know Yahuwah? Why aren't you talking about it? I've been to conferences where they talked about the space aliens, the guys coming through the portals, the wormholes, like opening up at CERN and blah, blah, this and that. They're all like analyzing the monsters, how big they are, how fierce they are. They're analyzing every word they say so you can know your enemy. They're liars. Do you know the Elohim of truth? You listen to his voice? You ever walk in his ways? Go back to those 13 names. Praise Yah, just do it. The welcoming committee as you enter into his het is his het somic, place of refuge and safety for those who seek him with all their heart and all their soul. Deuteronomy 30. Amnesty, grace, favor, regarded as pleasing, Haneni, paleo, how wonderful and marvelous, but it's hidden from everybody else. So if you want to know about those higher entities, check out Fourth Watch films. Other than that, spend your time trying to figure out Yahweh's words. That's my recommendation. Anyway, end of the call, back to you. Open up your mics and cameras and say whatever you want here before you got to shut it down.
Hallelujah. What was your part?
Should have one up here. I don't have one. But, I've recommended it for people to, that works.
Are you aware of anybody else that's not doing a end times doom and gloom teaching that's actually saying the same thing? Because I'm really not. Anybody else on the call that's heard anybody else say, do Yahuwah's things and everything's going to be good? Don't, and you're...
I don't know. Is anybody else out there ever speaking of these matters? Does anybody know? Does anybody looked?
I hope in some other languages that we don't speak, or else it's kind of pathetic. I mean, we're just a few.
It's kind of pathetic. That's a good way to describe it, Keelan. Yes.
Well, okay. I'm going to end in prayer then, and then we'll get to the after show. So thank you, Father, for helping us with understanding your words, what these things mean. Whatever you have planned, keep us safe, Father. And wake us up that we just start doing your things. It sounds like you're going to protect us, and I got to believe that. You're going to keep us safe, and we have to believe that. Like we learned last week, you're an Elohim of strength, and you're an Elohim that's going to fight strongly for his people. You love us. But we're only your people if we do your things, Father. But these become paramount to us. Nothing stops us from keeping the Shabbat. Nothing stops us from keeping your Moedim or your dietary commands or everything that you hold dear, that we hold dear as well. And I ask for understanding. I thank you for your many, many years of patience with us. And thank you for waking us up, Lord. May your name be on our lips only. In Yahuwah's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.